Welcome to the FedLife podcast with Dan Sipe from Serving Those Who Serve. In this podcast, Dan draws from years of financial experience to help federal employees overcome challenges that every Fed can relate to. Join us for this journey as we reach, teach, and serve to help you make the right financial decisions. Now, on to the show.
And hello to all our Feds, and welcome to the FedLife podcast. I'm your host, Dan Sipe, branch manager here at Serving Those Who Serve and Lee Sipe and Associates. And we are back today with the incomparable Ed Zurndorfer, author, teacher, and all-around good guy. If by some chance, and I always have to remind myself of this because I've been reading Ed for so long, I'm assuming that everybody else has, you haven't encountered Ed's work, here's a little bit about him. Ed is a certified financial planner, a chartered federal employee benefits consultant, a chartered financial consultant, a certified employee benefits specialist. Additionally, he is an enrolled agent representing taxpayers before the IRS. He is a member of the Maryland Society of Accountants, National Association of Enrolled Agents, the International Society of Certified Employee Benefit Specialists, the Financial Planning Association, the National Association of Health Underwriters, and the Society of Financial Planning Professionals. And in addition to that, he has been writing and teaching about federal benefits for 20 years now. So, welcome back, Ed.
Thank you, Dan. It's nice to be back.
And for our listeners, this is going to be the first of two episodes covering the upcoming changes to the Thrift Savings Plan, TSP, this year. And that is as a result of the TSP Modernization Act. Ed's going to talk about that to a great extent today. And we're going to split it into two because we want to make sure we give it enough detail so that you can get what you need and not have to listen to an extended cut. You can break it up a little bit. Now, at the outset, I need to say the opinions of our guest, Ed Zurndorfer, even though he is awesome, are not the opinions of Raymond James of Serving Those Who Serve. This podcast is presented for information only and not intended to be taken as advice. All listeners should consult their personal advisors before taking any action. So, Ed, TSP modernization has finally happened. They worked on it.
It has finally happened, Dan. It was 2 years in the making. Congress 2 years ago passed it, and they finally are going to implement it on September 15, 2019, actually 2 months out of schedule. Originally, it was supposed to be implemented on November 15th, and they were able to get all the changes done 2 months earlier. So September 15th is the magic date.
Oh, so they moved up. Let's give props on that because it doesn't always work that way.
Yes.
And from my review of it, it looks like the biggest changes involve our Fed's ability to have greater options and flexibility, specifically where withdrawals are concerned. So I think for the purpose of what we're going to do here, it will help our listeners if we sort of break it down into categories. So, for example, withdrawals that they can take and the options that they have while they're still working or in service, and then we'll talk about how they might do things when they're retired. But I also think let's not assume that everybody has read it as much as you have. So let's talk a little bit on the in-service side. What are the rules now? And then you can expand on what the changes are.
Okay. Currently, Dan, a federal employee has two options, two ways of withdrawing money while they're still in service. In other words, they are still contributing to the TSP. They're still a federal employee. And there's two ways are, one is called a hardship withdrawal, which has to be you have to be approved to make a hardship withdrawal. You could be at any age. The unfortunate part about a hardship withdrawal is that you have to pay tax, federal and state tax, and a 10% early withdrawal penalty on money you're taking out. And it's not a very good thing to do if you can avoid it.
So, for example, even during the shutdown, maybe people had to do that?
Unfortunately, during the shutdown, the most recent shutdown, there were employees who were forced to take money out of their TSP because they didn't have enough liquid savings available to them. Money they had, let's say, in a money market account or a savings account that they could withdraw when they needed it. So they turned to the TSP as a hardship withdrawal in order to get the money out to pay their everyday expenses.
Mm-hmm.
This happened, unfortunately, and we're hoping that, first of all, we hope this never happens again in terms of the government shutdown. We don't know. That. But I hope employees learn their lesson, not why this is not a good idea to request a hardship withdrawal, mainly because the money's not going to go back in. And once it's out, it's not going to get any earnings, will not be available to them when they retire.
Sure. One of the things that we talk about a lot, and it's been colored by the fact, I've been doing this 30 years, so I've seen a couple of shutdowns, but they seem to be getting longer, is shutdown survival. Make sure that you've got cash on hand, because ideally it should never happen. But the reality is that it's going to happen from time to time. So
I agree, Dan. I think every employee, whether they could be a federal employee or working in private industry, everybody should have at least 3 to 6 months of their average monthly expenses sitting in a liquid account, a savings account, a money market account. When I say average monthly expenses, I'm including things like rent, mortgage, insurance bills, food, entertainment,
sure,
things, just your everyday, typical everyday expenses. 3 to 6 months of your average monthly expenses should be available to you when you need it, without having to incur a penalty for withdrawing that money.
Okay, so one of the things that we will do right now as a good wish to all of our listeners is that they never, ever, 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 ever need a hardship withdrawal. But with modernization, that's not the type of in-service withdrawal that's really affected, is it?
That's correct. There are no changes to the hardship withdrawals under the TSP Modernization Act. Where the changes have occurred is something called age-based withdrawals.
Okay.
Under current rules, an employee who is at least age 59 and a half can make a one-time partial withdrawal from the TSP. They're not taking out their entire account. They're asking for a partial withdrawal. They pay the tax, federal and state tax, no 10% early withdrawal penalty, because as I said, they have to be at least age 59 and a half.
Got it.
Under current rules, an employee can only do that one time. And as we're going to find out here in a few moments, when they retire, they cannot do that. They cannot take a partial withdrawal. They use up their one-time partial withdrawal.
So as it stands right now, it's a one-and-done type of thing.
That is correct.
Okay. All right. So now that's where we are. Let's talk about the enhancement that has come as a result of the Modernization Act.
So as a result of the TSP Modernization Act, the TSP is going to allow multiple partial withdrawals for employees who are over age 59 and a half. Actually, I want to back up here. That's only if once they retire, once they have left federal service, they can make multiple partial withdrawals.
Okay.
While they're in service, still working, they're at least age 59 and a half, they're allowed to make up to 4 age-based partial withdrawals while they're still working. It's 4 per year.
Now, do they have to put any space in between them?
My understanding is it'll be at least 30 days in between them, at least 30 days.
Okay. From the hip, that sounds like a good thing. Can you think of any disadvantages to that? Oh, I can tell by your face you have a disadvantage. So Ed's going to tell you about a disadvantage.
I have my concerns, Dan.
Okay.
Employees should not consider their TSP while they're working to be their liquid savings account, like we just discussed a few moments ago. They should have money available to them to pay for emergencies that is not sitting in the TSP. Another concern I have is that the employees are approached for withdrawing their TSP, not to take it out, spend it, but to reinvest it in other things. Mm-hmm. They're being told that, well, there are better places to put the money. They're being sold on something, and employees should be very careful about that. Because remember that the TSP is their retirement account, and as we know, the TSP has done very well over the last 30 years it's been around.
Sure.
And in my opinion, employees should be very hesitant to withdraw their TSP and then to transfer it over to an IRA for the sake of, quote unquote, doing better.
Sure.
Because there's no guarantee.
That's very true. And, I think in any situation like that, and I believe what you're saying is you really, really want to do your due diligence before you make any decisions like that. We certainly agree with you on that. And, another thing to remember is that in my opinion, one of the nice things about this level of flexibility is that with a greater ability for partial withdrawals, if somebody is hearing something that they may want to try, it's no longer an all or nothing type of thing. They could take a smaller amount and try it. And they can, am I correct? They can always go back into TSP too.
If an employee or retiree requests a transfer of their direct transfer of part of their traditional TSP account to a traditional IRA, and a so-called rollover traditional IRA. And if they leave it in a rollover IRA and they decide, well, it's not doing as well as I thought it would do in this traditional IRA, they can roll it back into their TSP account, assuming they still have the TSP account. Because if they have withdrawn their entire TSP account and transfer it to an IRA, once the TSP account is closed, it cannot be reopened.
That's an important distinction. And that's why when we look at it from our perspective, the fact that there is the ability to do, a smaller amount and try something and then be able to go back is a really great flexibility for the folks in federal service. So is it safe to say from your perspective that you feel some of the more important enhancements to the Modernization Act have to do with after somebody's retired relative to withdrawals than while they're in service?
Yes, Dan, I would agree with that, because one of the criticisms of the TSP has been that once an employee retires, it's an annuitant, whether they're CSRS or FERS annuitant, and they want to start taking out their TSP account. And they can do that at any time after they retire. One of the criticisms of the TSP has been that the withdrawal options are very rigid.
Mm-hmm.
For example, somebody, let's say, did not make an age-based withdrawal when they were working. They retire, they're allowed to make only one partial withdrawal after they retire. And if they've made a partial withdrawal, they also cannot make a one-time direct transfer of part of their traditional TSP account to a traditional IRA. They've used up that one time. One-time withdrawal means either taking the money out, a distribution, or a transfer to an IRA.
So that's pretty restrictive. So good information about the in-service part. 4 times a year, caveat emptor. Want to be careful how we use that. So let's dive into the part where most folks are really going to want to know is how it's going to behave when they retire. And once again, you touched on it initially. Just do a quick flyover of somebody retires today before September 15th. They're under rules for being able to get money out that would be as follows.
Under current TSP rules, someone who retires, once they're retired, they can't do anything with their TSP account for the first 30 days
that
they are retired. It's not that the TSP doesn't want them to have the money. It's because when an employee retires, the employee's agency has to notify the TSP that the employee has retired, is now in retirement status. Once that 30-day period is up, the annuitant, the retiree, can at any time do the following regarding taking money out of their TSP. I want to emphasize, these are the current rules. They can make a one-time partial withdrawal if they have not used it up when they were using the age-based withdrawal when they were working. Anytime they can start what's called monthly payments, either fixed payments or payments based on life expectancy. Now, the payments based on life expectancy tend to be a little complicated. And if a retiree doesn't understand that, I recommend that the retiree stay away from that because it's a little complicated to understand.
Sure.
I'm a firm believer that if someone doesn't understand what they're doing, don't do it.
Makes perfect sense to me.
You should be in full control. The other way that the retiree can take money out in terms of monthly payments is called fixed monthly payments. Fixed monthly payments. You specify to TSP what you want to receive each month. Under current rules, once you specify what you want each month, you're stuck for the year. You cannot change that amount for the calendar year that you're taking the money out. You're allowed to change the amount of the monthly payment, increase it, decrease it for the following year if you make that choice by December 15th of the year. December 15th following preceding the year that you want to change the amount you want to withdraw. You can increase it, decrease it, but you cannot stop it under current rules.
Okay. You
can go down as low as $25 a month. That's the minimum.
Gotcha.
Current rules. Maximum, it's up to you. You have to know what your limits are.
Yeah, you don't want to run out.
You don't want to run out of money too soon in your retirement. So that's you could do the monthly payments. Another option that is available, you can request a part of your TSP account to be and use a part of your TSP account and purchase a fixed annuity from Metropolitan Life Insurance Company, in which you are guaranteed monthly payments from your account no matter how long you live. My suggestion is, if a retiree doesn't understand how this annuity works, because there's good news and bad news, they should talk to their financial advisors, because there are definitely some advantages and disadvantages when it comes to an annuity. Be very careful about that.
And again, couldn't agree with you more, Ed. Every single product, TSP included, has upsides and downsides, and that's great advice. Work with your trusted advisor that's going to lay out the pluses and the minuses. So that's how things are working now. After September 15th, how's it going to look for the folks in federal service?
After September 15th, a retiree can request multiple partial withdrawals, multiple transfers to IRAs, traditional IRAs, and I would be neglectful for not mentioning there is the Roth TSP. An employee can also transfer the Roth TSP to a Roth IRA. An employee can also transfer part of their traditional TSP account to a Roth IRA.
No, they'd have to pay taxes if they want to.
I caution employees to do that. They have to pay tax on the amount that they're transferring to the Roth IRA. Be very careful about that. And before they do that, they're strongly encouraged to talk to their tax advisor.
Well, little side note story here, and I'm flying off the script here for a second with Ed, but I know you remember when they changed the Roth IRA conversion rules.
Yes.
And we believed there was going to be a tsunami of conversions, and we had to be prepared for them. We didn't see that many, because once people saw the tax bite, it wasn't as attractive. I'd imagine that was the case for you as well.
That's correct. As a tax advisor, I was telling people this is an opportunity to convert your traditional IRAs, traditional TSP to Roth IRAs, but beware of the taxes. When they saw their tax bill, they decided not to do it.
Sure.
One follow up to that, though, under the current tax rules, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, individual tax rates have in fact been reduced, but they're going to go back up after 2025. So
does that mean Roth is on sale?
That means, in a sense, Roth is partially on sale in the following sense, that the tax rates will be lower than they were, let's say, 2 years ago before they passed the law. However, what is not on sale is the stock market. If you have a Roth IRA, a traditional IRA or traditional TSP account that's going up in value, many have over the past, based on what's happened with the stock market, you're to be cautioned about the amount of tax you're going to have to pay on the increased value of your traditional account. You should definitely work with a tax advisor before you do anything.
Couldn't agree with you more. Okay, so folks have the ability to take multiple partial withdrawals, and that is not affected by the fact that they may start receiving monthly payments as well.
And if they decide to start taking monthly payments, they can receive their monthly payments, and they can also request partial withdrawals. Talking about monthly payments, another change that's going to occur come September. Currently, under current rules, you only can change the amount of your monthly payment once a year. Come September, starting September 15th, you can change the amount of your monthly payments quarterly.
Okay.
As opposed to waiting for the December to change your amounts the following year. Do it every 3 months.
Okay. And you feel that's a good thing?
I feel it's a good thing if people understand that everything is dictated by their budget. They should only take out enough to pay what they have to do. And please do not forget about taxes, because if they feel that they're going to need $2,000 a month in the TSP to pay their expenses, then they better think about taking out maybe $2,500 to $3,000 in order to cover their tax liability, because you got to think net. You can't think gross here. Because all TSP withdrawals, all withdrawals from the traditional TSP are fully federal taxable, And depending on what state you live in, they could be state taxable as well.
Gotcha. So, anything else to add on the retirement enhancements once people have actually retired?
Yes, there's one other enhancement which is going to be very helpful. Under current TSP rules, if an employee has a traditional TSP account, has a Roth TSP account, they're contributing to both accounts. Under current rules, if that employee wants to make, let's say, a partial withdrawal or monthly, and then when they retire, they want to make a partial withdrawal. When they retire, when they want to make monthly payment, they want to receive monthly payments, then they cannot tell the TSP, please only take the money out of my traditional TSP account and leave my Roth account alone. And under the new rules, you can actually do that. You can specify that only money coming out of the traditional TSP will only come out of the traditional TSP account, leaving one's Roth TSP account to grow, hopefully tax-free.
Sure.
If they kept its qualified money. Let me just back up here and mention. I'm just going to give a quick example of the current rules. Somebody has $100,000 in their traditional in their Roth TSP account. They have $400,000 in their traditional TSP account, and they're asking for a check for $1,000 a month from their TSP account to retire. Now, under current rules, the TSP will take the money out pro rata. So you have 20% or $200 coming from the Roth TSP account, and the other 80% will be coming, or $800 will come from the traditional TSP account. And that's how the money will be taken out. You cannot specify. But under the new TSP rules, when one makes withdrawals, whether they're partial withdrawals or monthly payments, you can specify that only the money should come either from the Roth account or the traditional TSP account. It will not come out pro rata.
Okay. And folks, you actually got a little bit of bonus there from Ed, because we're also going to cover that in episode 2 of TSP enhancements. So he'll definitely recap that one a little bit, because I have noticed that sometimes the pro rata aspect of Roth and traditional gets people's heads spinning a little bit. So I think this is a great place for us to break in what we've covered, and then in episode 2. We'll go into a little more detail about that differentiation between Roth and traditional. We will discuss the scary term of abandonment, because nobody wants to be abandoned. And then we'll talk about some of the nuts and bolts things. And as always, as you have observed, there are always these Ed's essentials that pop up that he'll pass along to you. So once again, Ed, I can't thank you enough for coming on to help our FedLife folks prepare for these enhancements. It's always great.
Thank you, Dan, for having me.
And to our feds, watch for the next installment in the series, where we will dive into the enhancements to Roth TSP, abandonment rules, and the transition dates. Those will be important. And don't forget, you can read Ed's latest work in the Fed Zone at stwserve.com and learn from Ed live at complimentary open enrollment workshops conveniently located throughout the DMV. For more information, go to www.stwserve and click Seminars and Events. Ed Live is fun to watch, especially if you get spun up on something. It is not to be missed. You can also find seminar links on Facebook. Be sure to check us out on Twitter and LinkedIn as well. So for Ed Zurndorfer, the crew at Serving Those Who Serve, and me, Dan Sipe, thank you for listening. Please share this with friends and strangers. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you always know when we're adding content. And above all, remember, it's your FedLife. Make it a great one, because you deserve it. We're out.
Thank you for listening to the FedLife Podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Serving Those Who Serve or Raymond James. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning. Securities offered through Raymond James Financial Services Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Raymond James Financial Services Advisors Incorporated. Serving Those Who Serve is not a registered broker-dealer and is independent of Raymond James Financial Services.
Neither Raymond James Financial Services nor any Raymond James financial advisor renders advice on tax issues. These matters should be discussed with the appropriate professional. Investing involves risk, and you may incur a profit or loss regardless of strategy selected, including diversification and asset allocation.
Raymond James is not affiliated and does not endorse the opinions or services of any of the quoted professionals or their respective firms. Any opinions are those of Dan Sipe and not necessarily those of RJFS or Raymond James. This case study is for illustrative purposes only. Individual cases will vary.